You know, I'm thinking to save her voice and everybody else, could you ladies slide forward? Just don't get in front of the camera. Let's everybody slide forward here. You can slide those tables forward too. Let's get
luckily I just put
just a little bit cozy here.
Yeah, let's get cozy.
Yeah.
So,
Let's pretend like we like each other. What's that? Yes, we do. Feel free to slide up tables too, you know. This is our building. We get to do whatever we want, so it's okay.
right there.
Where y'all from?
Okay, we go.
Where?
You're up.
We have southern and northern.
Cheese making class.
I was born and raised in San Diego. I moved to Texas when I was 22. Okay. Been here since, or in Texas since then.
As long as I can see this, I'm good.
I'm under here currently. We live kind of near Palm Springs. Okay. We have a house up in Northern California.
And, yeah, have fun because I'm going to go in that third row. I'm going to watch too.
Okay. All right.
Speak up, because over here we couldn't hear any of that.
Okay, I will. Okay, thank you everybody for joining me. I hope I don't ramble. I'm a little nervous. I don't do a lot of public speaking, and it's the first time I've ever taught a class like this, except for kids, you know, of course. So, anyway, my goal here today is just to introduce you to cheese making, and so when I first started out, I was scared to death. I read all these stories about how everything has to be sterile and no bacteria, and so I'd spend 2 hours disinfecting my entire kitchen, and it's not that difficult. It's not that sensitive. So, you don't have to be quite so anal about that. So anyway, what I've started before class is just to warm the milk, because 30-minute mozzarella really does take an hour. Irregardless of what the recipe says, it takes a while to warm it up. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into this, and while we're waiting, I'll show you some of the supplies. These are not all necessary, but these might be some things that you will come across. So you warm up, and all the recipe is in your handout. So you warm up your milk to 55 degrees. Before you guys came, I had diluted some citric acid, which will help just cure the milk. You don't have to do this. A longer version of mozzarella, if you let the milk sit at a warm temperature, it will naturally start to develop that process. But time is of the essence, and I don't have 3 hours to make mozzarella cheese. So I used citric acid and added that. And then you'll continue heating it to 88 degrees, and you'll add a diluted version of animal rennet or vegetable rennet. I've used both, and I haven't noticed any difference in either one. So, you know, obviously one's more vegetarian friendly than the other. So we're still waiting for this to warm up. We're at 81 degrees. So when we get to 88, we'll add that, and that's when a lot of the action really starts happening. Whew, you guys can't hear me back there? Okay. So anyway, some of the equipment that you'll need, I have got in your handout some pictures.
Do you have some more of those?
Yes, they got handed out by somebody.
There's some right there.
I'm going to try to put this on the website. I'm not sure if I can, because some of the recipes are from a book. Maybe I shouldn't say that out loud, but you know, it's copyright protected. One of my favorite books is this one, 200 Easy Homemade Cheese Making Recipes. That if you don't have anything, this is a really great one. I've got some other books in there listed as well. Now, as far as cheese presses are concerned, those are only when you're needing hard cheeses, so your like cheddar cheeses, jack, anything like that needs a press. This is my first one. it's the most expensive one you can buy. And honestly, you don't have to have anything fancy with a little weight on it, but I have a science degree, and I just twist for pressure. I have to know how much pressure. If it says 10 pounds, I don't want it to be 12, but it's not that big of a deal. This is a much cheaper version. You can buy separate sleeves, so then you twist until you get just a little bit of weight to start coming out. You twist too hard and it literally will like hold it all in. So you twist just enough until you get a little pressure. There's a little bit of an art to it, but it's totally doable. But this is still by far my favorite. I've seen people where they've got like a weighted lever mechanism. You can see on YouTube or other videos, or Pinterest is a great one to make your own. But I like these. This one was still by far my favorite. I'm just going to walk you through this real quick. These come in different sizes. I typically won't, I'm not brave enough to make anything more than a 3-pound batch, just because I hand milk, and if I mess up and lose a 5-gallon batch, whoever said don't cry over spilt milk clearly never milked the cow, or at least not mine, because I like to say she's a privilege to milk, not a right. She doesn't like being a milk cow. So you can get bigger or smaller sizes for smaller batches. Once your curd is set, because the instructions you'll go through on how to heat it, how to add all your ingredients, how to cut the curd. I'm not going to go into all that because we don't have time. But once you get your curd and it's salted, it will go in your cheese press with your follower, your weight, and then this goes on top, and all that will be up high. So then you'll put and these are all so very basic. You can do these, you can make your own. And so obviously the cheese will be up higher, and then this will actually put weight on it and pressure. These are your weights that hold it in place. So then I can press down, and then I can see exactly how many pounds of pressure I've got. And the instructions will take you through rotating your cheese and putting more pressure, and you're going to apply pressure slowly over time. And then once that's done and dried, or done pressing, and usually with cheddar takes about 24 hours, you'll take it out, and I like some bamboo cutting boards, and then these you can get at any craft store, and the cheese will sit on top, and you'll dry it for anywhere from a day to 3 days, depending on your humidity in your house, and you want it to be dry to the touch. Sorry, hold on. You want it dry to the touch. You'll rotate it like twice a day or so that it's dry. And then right before, you can wax it when you're done. But before you wax it, you want to coat it with like a vinegar, just to wipe it, not wet it, but you just wipe it down with a little bit of vinegar to kill any bacteria that's gotten on your cheese. And then if you're going to wax, get an old crock pot and put your wax in there and heat it up, and then you can take your cheese and put it in the fridge so it gets cold, and then you can dip it right into that big wide crock pot. Some people will brush it on. I've done that, and it's a mess, and the brush gets icky and sticky, and then you might miss a spot, and anyway, it's much easier to just dip it in a big vat of wax. My far preferred method is a vacuum sealer. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to worry about my cheese wax getting dry. I can just vacuum seal this baby and put it in my cheese cave and not have to worry about it. If I look at it, if I lost a seal, then I'll reseal it. But there's been times when my cheese wax, we did this for the first year, and I'd put my cheese in the cheese cave, and when I went to rotate it, the cheese wax got stuck and it peeled off. So now I got to re-wax my cheese, and it's just a real pain. So I far prefer this method. So cheddar cheese and any hard cheeses, they usually take a few months to age. No, we're at, hold on, okay, so we're at like 90 degrees. I missed my 88, but that's okay. So I'm going to add the diluted rennet, and you don't want it to go like in a big glob. You want it to disperse evenly, and then just do a gentle top-down stir. So my stir stick kind of goes like this, and that's really important also if you're using raw unhomogenized milk, because the cream will sit at the top. So we'll just set that and let it mix. And what's going to happen in a minute is it's going to turn kind of it'll look like it's getting thick, like kind of like a melted shake, you know? And then really quickly it will turn like a light greenish color. If you've seen whey, it's got that yellowish green color. And then you know your cheese and all the curd and everything is solidifying, and we'll let it sit for a minute and it'll just sink to the bottom of the pan. So I'm going to go ahead and take it off the temperature or off the burner to let it do its business. So, am I going too fast or all over the place? No. Are you guys okay? Following me all right? All right, I'm sorry. I'm a little nervous. What?
What is that?
Yeah, this was animal rennet.
What is that?
Rennet is basically the lining of a calf's stomach, and it's what makes cheese curdle.
Okay.
So, all right, so that's going. All right, so back to our cheese. And the hard cheeses anywhere from like 3 to 6 months. Some of the Parmesan cheeses take a year, 2 or 3 years to age. I would recommend everybody start out cheeses with like some soft cheeses. I've got a lactic cheese recipe in here that's super easy. And you know, if anybody's done yogurt, that's another type of cheese making as well. And then work your way up to the mozzarella. That's really simple. And don't be afraid to try some of the moldy cheeses. Those are actually some of the easiest ones. And this is all by my preference and my opinion. Some people have a different order of what is easiest. A lot of people will go from mozzarella to like a farmhouse cheddar. But I think that those moldy cheeses, like a Camembert or a Brie, are super easy to do, and they don't take months and months to age. Okay, so we've got some coagulation. It looks like chunky sour milk, basically. So that's just our cheese coagulating and separating. And I'm going to go ahead and let it rest for a minute and just let it sink to the bottom. So some of the equipment that you'll need for your softer cheeses and it's not necessary, but I like these little drain baskets for when I'm making my lactic cheese. I've also used a big like spaghetti colander that's just plastic, and use that to drain my lactic cheese. These types of drains are for like what are they called? You know, your goat cheeses, your
Chef.
yes, thank you. It's like my favorite cheese, chef cheese. Yeah, I bought this thinking, oh, I'll make chef cheese. Well, I'm sorry, that's like a single serving of chef cheese. So I make my chef cheese in something like this, and it works just the same. And then same with these. These are what you'll use your Camemberts, your Brie cheeses, anything that's soft, or your moldy cheeses, blue cheese. When, like, it's all kind of the same idea. You heat your milk, you add your culture, and your other ingredients, whatever the recipe calls for, and when you've got your curd and you're ready to start forming or pressing it, those soft cheeses will just sit in here, and you'll want a drain of some sort, like this. I'm not a big fan of these because these can hold bacteria real easily, and they're kind of hard to wash. But so I went back to these, and these are super cheap, and you can sterilize them in your dishwasher And then you want to set up your brie containers that are all sterilized on top, so that when you're ladling in your soft curd, it will just slowly drain out. So I usually put them on like a baking sheet so that the whey that's underneath will collect there. And then when that's done, it usually takes about overnight to 24 hours to get the whey out. And when it's done, you've got your nice little thing of cheese mold. Well, when you were cooking that cheese, you added a culture and you add mold to it. So when we started, I read all these things about, your cheese cave. You want to make sure you don't get an old fridge because it's got mold in it and it will get mold on your cheese and all that stuff. Well, I had a small wine cave, or not wine cave, a wine cooler that I could set at 55 degrees. And I didn't want to put my stinky moldy cheese with my cheddar cheese, right? And so no one tells you this. I've read so many books, I can't believe I never discovered this. And I'm like, I'm going to make my own cheese cave, right? So I've got my stinky moldy cheese that's just covered in mold. It really was. And I put my drain on there so that it doesn't sit in its own way, because it will continue to drain. And then I even went so far as to put like a little humidifier digital thing in there so I could monitor the humidity and the temperature, which isn't necessary, but again, I'm a little weird that way. And then I could take this whole container and stick it in my cheese cave, and it's not going to contaminate my cheddar cheeses. Also, a lot of people will make if they make a 5-pound block, this is a 3-pound block, it's cut in half. But if you do a 5-pound block, it's not economical to wax it at that point. It's so big. A lot of people will just stick it in their cheese cave as is. That's where you're going to get potential mold if you do mix these two. But when it's waxed like this, or not waxed, but in a sealed bag or waxed, you're not going to get moldy contamination. So it's again another benefit of using these types of bags or waxing your cheese. So I would just stick this in there, and then every day for, I haven't made it in a while. We did a camembert, but every day, twice a day, you want to take it out because you'll get condensation in there. Dump out the whey that's kind of drained in there and wipe it out. Make it nice and dry. You want your humidity level, around 75 to 80%, but it can get up to 100%, or really, it like rains down. It will be a 90-some% humidity in here. You want to dry that out, especially when you're making like a blue cheese, or any type of moldy cheese, because it will over-ripen. It just changes the flavor. It doesn't make it unsafe. It just becomes really, really strong. So I had made a Roquefort blue cheese, and it was a lot more humid in there than I thought it was, and it became like Roquefort on steroids. It was so strong. I swear it burns your nose, but it's really yummy. It just you can only take like a little dab. So we're still going through that Roquefort cheese. But at the end, when you're ready, your cheese is done, and you can take it out of your mold, you have to still age it. So you've got your cheese wraps. This is a white cheese wrap that you can buy at any cheese-making supply company. It's got a shiny side and a dull side. And you take the dull side, which it absorbs a little excess moisture. It allows it to breathe a little bit, and you just wrap your cheese up. And you guys have, I'm sure, if anybody's eaten brie or camembert, you've seen this wrap on that cheese. So you can wrap it up. I usually tape it to ensure that it stays there, and then I'll put it in my refrigerator to just kind of continue to age for a little bit. The other cheese wrap is clear, and these are for your washed rind cheeses. So if you're going to do like a Parmesan cheese, or I think even Jack cheese has a washed rind, you'll wrap it in this when it's done before you age it. So, okay. Cheese is going to get really, really hot, especially mozzarella. And we want this to get up to 100 degrees. I know this recipe by heart, but I'm so nervous. I don't want to screw it up. Okay, so we want this cheese mixture here to get up to 100 degrees. And then when it's time to stretch the cheese, you can heat the whey really hot, and then just dip your cheese in it. It takes a little bit longer than I have allowed, so I'm going to cheat and use the microwave, which is totally legitimate. But a lot of people don't like microwaves, and for various reasons, and also the idea, it kind of just kills a little bit of me inside to think that I'm taking my beautiful raw milk and putting it in a microwave and killing everything that's good in it. But like I said, we're kind of pressed for time, so we will use the microwave. But when that cheese is in the microwave, and to get it stretching hot, I don't even know, I think it's like 140. Here, the whey would be 175 degrees, so one could argue that that cheese ball could potentially be 175 degrees when you're touching it. And I have yet to find dish gloves that are even, food grade gloves that are like designed for cheese making that can tolerate that kind of heat. And if you don't get your cheese hot enough, it won't stretch as well. And believe it or not, I thought this was so strange, and I've discovered this. I read it and I didn't believe it. And then I did it and I was like, okay. So if you don't stretch it enough, it won't be soft like mozzarella is supposed to be. It'll actually be hard, kind of like almost like a cheddar. So you really want that temperature to get up hot enough so that you can stretch it well enough. And the only way I could get it hot enough and still protect my hands was to buy some professional dishwashing gloves. And when I got them, I thought, well, this is really stupid. I paid a lot of money for these. I could have just gotten a dollar store, winter glove that are one size fits all, and some extra large dish gloves, and stuck those babies on and called it good. But that's why I post in here. I've linked the dish gloves, but that's my little cheat. So, all right. So we're gonna at 100 degrees, and we're gonna go ahead and take the cheese out. And my gloves are clean. That little spray bottle over there, that's got a 10% bleach solution, and I usually will spray most of my equipment, but I just wash my gloves in hot soapy water. So when I was stirring this and it was mixing up, it was kind of all over the place, but as it settles, it will kind of congeal and stick together. And I know every recipe says you want your whey to be mostly clear, transparent, but I've never had that happen. It's always a little bit milky, no matter how long I let it sit. And I kind of wonder if that's just the Dexter milk.
No, it's goat milk too.
Goat milk does that? Yeah, because it doesn't homogenize, or it's naturally homogenized, so it doesn't separate real well. But anyway, during this process here, you want to try and squeeze out as much whey as possible. Whey won't get sucked back into your cheese, but you just, so if it's sitting in a little puddle, it's not a big deal, but you just want to get out as much as you can. Whey will flavor your cheese, so that I don't even know how to describe it, but it has a slight flavor to it. And so I can always tell if I've not done a good job of getting the whey out. This was a 2-pound batch. And they say that for every gallon of milk, you'll get about a pound of cheese. I've yet to get a pound of cheese. I probably get about, I think I've weighed it before, the 16 ounces in a pound. I usually get probably about like 12 maybe or 13 ounces. Okay. So, you know, microwave times vary. I usually start at about a minute. Just to warm it up. And then I'll squeeze it and get more whey out of it. And we'll put it back in the microwave for another 30 seconds. And then pull it out and we'll start stretching it. And that's kind of where the fun comes in. So,
if you don't microwave it, how do you get it hot?
oh yes, so if you don't microwave, the alternative is to use your whey. So you will heat this whey up to 125 degrees, and then you'll have your gloves, and you'll take your, I would take that ball and separate it into probably 4 balls, because they'll be smaller, easier to deal with, and they'll heat up faster. And you'll have like a soup ladle. I have a picture of one in here. It's got a strainer. It's called a straining skimmer. And you'll have your cheese on that and dip it in there, hold it in for a little bit. Not too long, because you pull it out, it'll be melty. And you'll lose some of your cheese. But that is, I've made cheese that way many a times. It just takes a little bit longer. And I was afraid I would run out of time if I did it that way. So as you can see, the cheese is actually starting to meld together. It's getting a little bit of a shine to it. That's what we want. We got most of that whey out of there. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in for another 30 seconds. This is like my dog's favorite time of the day when I'm making cheese, because you can't see it, but I'm dripping whey all over the place on the table. So I stand at the microwave like this, and I drip whey on the floor, and she comes along and licks it up. It's really kind of disgusting, but I don't know why I just told you that.
Because we all have dogs and they all do the same thing. They sit at the kitchen waiting for us to drop something when you're cooking.
I know, but it's like I intentionally let the whey fall on my ground.
I probably would.
So the
I
dog
love
can have
my
a little
dog.
treat, right?
Love my dog.
Yeah. All right, so we're getting there. It starts to get real stretchy. Oh, you know, I forgot to mention what's the word I'm looking for? Something that's not necessary, optional. An option, when I added the citric acid from the very beginning, I got it to 55 degrees and added citric acid. At that time, you can optionally add cap lipase powder, and that will help give it a little bit of flavor. And see, look at me, I'm making a mess. Where's that dog? There
A
it is.
little white fluffy one around here.
Okay, so I'm going to pull a little bit harder, and so you can see, you guys see that it's starting to rip, and actually it's, tearing. It's because I'm losing the temperature. So I'm going to go ahead and give that another 20 seconds to warm up so I can stretch it a little bit longer.
Kimberly, what's the purpose of stretching?
Stretching the cheese, that's what makes it mozzarella. If you don't stretch it, it'll be hard. And stretching it actually makes it soft. And I said, because I read that if you stretch it too much, then the opposite happens, it gets hard. And that's true. But you've got to stretch it a lot to get to that happen. So I used to understretch my mozzarella, and I could never understand why it wasn't soft like it should be. And that it was because I was understretching it. So I usually go a little bit faster. Dump more weight on the ground. And so then what you're looking for is a nice shine and smoothness. I think this microwave has less wattage than my other one, so it didn't warm it up quite as much. But you can see how it's, can you see that shine? That's really what you're, that you're looking for, that. So at this point, you're going to go ahead and add salt to it because salt makes everything better, right? And it's, about a teaspoon or so. I am a horrible baker because I don't know how to follow directions real well, and I'm like a dash here and a dash there. It tastes good, but you can't do that with baking. So I'll just go ahead and mix that up, and everybody does it a little bit differently, but I try to kind of work it back into a ball. You guys see everything all right?
Could you leave the salt out, or do you?
You
have to have
can,
it
but
to make it right?
you've tasted cheeseless or saltless cheese. It just doesn't taste as good, does it?
Not quite the
It's
same, no.
pretty bland. I mean, mozzarella is already really bland. And you can. I mean, you certainly can. The other thing I've done is I've added herbs at this point. I have a garlic over there I was going to have you guys try. I used a garlic. This is a lower wattage. It didn't heat it up quite as much, so I'm going to give it a little more time. All right, so you can, and just try it if you don't like salt, or if you're trying to do a low sodium diet, you can add just about anything to the end of this. So once you're ready to mold your cheese, a lot of people will do like little balls of cheese or a big ball, and I've read that you want to chill it as fast as possible. So what you'll do is you'll take a big bowl of cool water with ice, and then you'll have your ball of mozzarella, and you'll submerge it in there. And I've done that many times, and I just don't taste any difference. And then the outside of it kind of has a weird texture, so I'm not a big fan of the ice bowl. So instead, what I do, yeah, now we got a good melt. All right, I want to make sure I got that salt really well kneaded in here so that we don't have somebody bite into a pocket of salt. What I prefer to do, as you guys can see, my cheese is round like a log. I don't know. It doesn't taste any different. I just like that I can cut it nicely into shape. And the way I get that is I buy these BPA-free cutting mats from Walmart. I realize I'm getting quieter. I'm sorry. And then I just roll it in here. Woo! It's getting sticky. Okay. And then, so I'm not actually chilling it, right? I'm just going to roll it into a log, and then I stick it in my refrigerator, just like this. I forgot my saran wrap, but I'm just doing this for the show. So we'll pretend this is my refrigerator, and I've got saran wrap on the bottom of this, held together, and I sit it like so. And it just sits there, and it will cool off in my refrigerator. We're going to let that cool just a little bit, and then we'll cut it, because some of the best mozzarella ever is when it's first freshly made like this. And it's just, you can't, I mean, you could get fat on it. It's so good. Whoops!
I gained 3 pounds just watching.
Okay. There. All right. So now we're done with our mozzarella. You can eat it hot. Like I said, I'll make mozzarella in big batches. When I do a 4 or 5 gallon batches, at that point I feel comfortable with my skills to make a big batch of mozzarella. I have a huge pot. I will take that big glob of mozzarella and just break it up into smaller portions so I can deal with it easier. Trying to stretch a 5 gallon batch of mozzarella, the dog would really like me then, because it would land on the floor. So when I'm done with mozzarella, this, I wish I could show you, you can see. My pot was probably filled to about here, and what's left is filled to here. Every single drop, I squirted out painfully, each squirt by hand. This kills me to have all this whey, and I can't eat it. I mean, I guess I could, but I'm not going to drink whey. I mean, it just doesn't taste that good. So, what do you do with all this whey? For a long time, we would take the whey and, I hate saying it, but we put it on the compost pile because I didn't know what else to do with it. We would feed it to the chickens, but chickens will only eat so much of it. And then I found out that chickens are lactose intolerant. Somebody please correct me if that's wrong. They're lactose intolerant. So I had all these chickens running around with really dirty bottoms all the time because they were eating all the whey. And eventually I think they just went, you know what, that's not good for us, so they just stopped eating it. So you can put it around your garden, you can put it around your trees. And here's one thing that I don't usually tell people because people think I'm crazy. But I will take this whey and I'll filter it out a little bit with some like cheesecloth or butter muslin or whatever, because there are still some, you know, some chunks, residual things in there. But I strain it out and I will put it in a quart-sized jar and I will use it as a hair conditioner. And ladies, let me tell you, your hair will feel amazing. It is so soft and so just like satin, silky smooth. It's incredible. So I had a friend telling this about, and she said her daughter has really crazy flyaway hair, always has, spends hundreds of dollars on hair products and can't get that hair tamed down. And I said, I don't know. I mean, I'm like, I already have fine hair, but it makes my hair feel really nice and soft. I go, why don't you give it a try? And she comes back, she goes, oh my gosh, this stuff is amazing. How can we get more away? And I'm like, you can have it, because I got so much of it. Well, now I'm not giving it away because we have pigs, so we feed it to the pigs. And I have heard that there's nothing better than milk-fed pork. And obviously it's not milk, but my piggies love it, and they do a great job cleaning it up. But I still will use it occasionally. You only have to use it like once a week on your hair. And I will warn you that the older whey gets, the more it smells. So I had a container of it in my shower, and it's cold. I mean, you wouldn't think room temperature on your head is cold, but when you're in a hot shower, that's cold. So I bend over and kind of dump it on my head. And the first time I did it, I was like, man, this really kind of stinks. And I'm touching my hair, and it feels all funny, and it's dry. And man, this is insane. I rinse it out, blow dry my hair, and I could not believe the transformation. And it didn't stink. So you can go ahead and use it on your hair, or you can use it for soup, a soup base. And it's really high in protein. I think I looked it up once. It was really high. It was, where's Susan? I told you, I emailed you, I said it was like, and she's like, don't put me on the spot. Gosh, it was 20 grams of protein per cup or something. Look it up.
They sell whey powder.
It's
really
high in protein.
They sell
So, yeah, I mean, you can freeze it, throw it in your freezer, or use it as, soup stocks or anything like that. So there's a lot of good nutrition in here. And even though I always made my husband dump it on the compost pile because I couldn't bear to do it, it still was good for my soil and was going to be recycled. So that's that cheese. If somebody would like to come and cut up some cheese for you guys, that'd be great. Kevin, are you gonna?
No, why don't we go with the sampling portion next? So
right.
I'll just let this end.
The little chunks that are left in there, would they make cottage cheese?
No, actually, you're right. I'm sorry. Thank you for reminding me of that. You have 1 hour to take this whey and turn it into ricotta cheese. Ricotta. The layers of lasagna. So what you'll do is you'll take, and I don't make ricotta just because it's so bland, and we don't eat pasta, so But anyway, you can take another gallon of milk and add it in here, and I didn't add the recipe, I apologize, but it is super easy. Any cheese book
What's
I actually
the name of
started,
it?
and that's in the back page there. This book is in the back page.
Oh, okay.
I started with this book, and I still reference this book all the time. It's got the